Hey everybody, welcome back to math class. I know this is a very weird situation for everybody, so I'm going to try and make this as painless as possible. See, my screen is moving here. So I want to give you a heads up. This is new technology for me. I'm trying out some new tools on my own computer, so we'll see how this goes. If it's a little rough, I apologize. So we're going to make this as painless as possible today. So we're going to start with review because it's been a little while. Although I know you were doing all kinds of mathematics on your 2 weeks off, right? Looking at you. But just in case you don't remember, we're going to review some statistics. Now, if you look in the Google Classroom, your assignment for today is book part 1. So the goal of that is by the end of our time, however long we're online, you're going to have a document or a series of documents that explain all the things we've talked about so you can look back at them at the end. So what I would do if I were you is I would go ahead and open it up because a lot of the definitions you're looking for in that document are going to be in this video. So let's start with two big terms. So first of all, what is statistics? Now, statistic is the practice or science of collecting and analyzing numerical data. So remember, we're looking at information. We're looking at some sort of numbers to draw conclusions. So we're going to work on drawing conclusions throughout this unit. Now, with that, we're going to look at this thing called data. Now, we use data all the time as teachers. If you have been watching the news at all, there's all kinds of data. Every time you see them mention something about COVID-19, this many people have it. That's data. So that is all around us. So these are facts and figures collected together for reference and analysis. So in this time, data is huge. It is a big topic of what we're doing here in our world today. Now, when we have data, we want to look at what are called the measures of center. Now, all of this we have done in class before, so I'm going to keep our review kind of brief. So there are 4 big measures. Well, it's actually 5. We'll get to the 5th one later. So the first one we're going to review is the mean. So the mean is the average of all the data. So whenever we talk about quizzes, we talk about tests, we would say the average test score is blah. That means the mean. Now, if you remember, our BFF Desmos will help us find the mean without having to do a whole bunch. And so how to do that is we would type mean x sub 1, and I will review that here in just a moment. So the second measure we have is the median. So the median is the middle number of the data set. So if you remember back to 4th grade when you learned this, you'd have to put all the numbers in order and then do that finger thing and look for the one in the middle. Well, Desmos takes that away from us. We don't have to do the finger thing anymore. We just use the median button. The next one we have is the mode, and a lot of people forget this one. The mode is the most frequently occurring number. So what number repeats the most? Now, unfortunately, this is the one measure that Desmos won't do. So sorry, y'all, you're going to have to find it on your own. Now, remember, you can't have more than one mode. You could have 2 modes. You could have 3 modes. Now, if there are no repeats, we would just say none. There are no modes. And then the last one is called the range. I move my head here a little bit. There we go. So it is the distance between the lowest number and the highest number. So what you're going to do is take the biggest one, subtract the smallest, and that gives you your range. Remember, it talks about spread, and we learned that the proper way to spread jelly is by using a spoon, not a knife. And our BFF Desmos will do this. It's when we use max 1 minus min x sub 1. So max will tell us the biggest number, min will tell us the smallest number. So we're going to review a little bit of how to do this in Desmos. So if you want to jot this down somewhere, this is not part of your notes. Here's how you do it. Remember, the first thing when we're trying to find the measures is we type in our data in a table. So you're going to start by inserting a table, type your data in a column, and then do the commands to find your particular measure. So let's jump into how to do that. So I'm going to try something here. There we go. Hopefully you can still see my screen. So here I've got a Desmos window. Now, if you remember to type in a table, you would click the plus sign, and then table. And then we would just start typing our data into our table. Now for me, I am literally just making these numbers up just as an example. You're going to do some of these in your homework tonight. So we type in our data. Now if you forget all of the different codes or different ways to type stuff in, or if you click the keyboard and then under functions right here, under the stats menu, that's where all of your big important stuff is for this unit. So I'm going to click the mean button right here. And then we have to tell Desmos, what do we want to find the mean of? Well, it's x1, so we say x1. Ooh, it's 13. And then I do the same thing for median. Median x1. Hey, it's the same thing. That's convenient. So we got mean, we've got median. Remember mode, if we start typing in mode, it doesn't work. So again, don't try it. And then range, remember we want to use this max button right here. So max x1, close parentheses, minus min x1. And there we go. It took our biggest number, max, which, if I back up just a second, our max was 17, and it subtracted from it min, which is, in this case, 10. If we look over here, 10 is my smallest, 17 is my biggest, and we have our range. So that's just a quick review of finding the measures of center using Desmos. Now, the other thing we want to review is we also want to review a histogram. Now, I apologize if I kind of rushed through that. We've done it before, so I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time doing it. But a histogram is something that we ended on. So let's review what a histogram is. Again, this definition needs to go into your book. It is a graph that represents the frequency of values in specified ranges. Remember that word ranges is what is important here. Let's underline that. Let's new tech here. See how it goes. So we're looking at specified ranges. So for example, here I have a histogram and I'm looking at visitors versus age group. Visitors versus age group. And I can see down here on the bottom, I've got ranges of ages. And I can kind of see who is visiting this particular, I thought we said it was a museum, but who was visiting this particular museum. So I saw it was 20 to 25 because I had the highest bar. Now, there are a couple more terms associated with that. We have this term called a frequency. Now, frequency is the number of times something happens, because we're going to make what's called a frequency table. So we'll get to that here in just a second. So frequency is the number of times something happens. Now, before we get into a frequency table, I want to review the differences between a histogram and a bar graph, because they look almost the same, but there are two key differences. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you're not following your book, this is helpful. So let's talk about some key differences. Let's clear all that. So when I'm looking here, I've got a bar graph. I've got a histogram. There are two big differences. The first one is the bar graphs have no touching. There are spaces between the bars. You notice right here, space, space, space. There are no touching. These are practicing social distancing. So be like the bar graph, practice social distancing. Anyways, then we have a histogram. The histogram did not get the memo. They are not social distancing. Shame on them. There is no space. They are touching. Now, the reason they're touching is because we're covering a spectrum of different possible answers. And that leads to difference number two. Difference number two is that bar graphs have specific categories. Bar graphs have specific categories. And let's move my picture again. And histograms have ranges of responses. There we go. So when we're looking at a bar graph, we have a specific value. So we're looking at categories. In this case, our categories are our favorite pet, because clearly everybody wants an alligator. So we've got specific categories versus our specified ranges. So those are kind of the big differences. Now, what we're going to do with this, we're not going to make a histogram online. It is really difficult to do online, so we're not going to mess with that on Google Docs and all that stuff. But what we are going to do is make what's called a frequency table. Now, a frequency table is the basis for a histogram, so it's kind of where we start with. So let's define that. So a frequency table is a table that represents how many times a number falls into a range. Okay, so we would take a set of data and we put how many times something appears in the specified range. Now, I want to make a note here is that our ranges must be the same size. Meaning we want to count by the same number every time. Now, if you remember what I talked about in class, starting with 1 is good. Like you can go from 1 to 10. That's a good number. Or going from like 0 to 9 works really well. Because the key here is you don't want numbers to be in two categories. So like if you're looking at my first set, if you're looking at my first set, I end with a 10 and I start with an 11. I don't want to go from a 10 to a 10 because then I would be double counting, and double counting could make things a mess. So we're going to try to avoid that as much as possible. So let's see, this is an 11. Anyways, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a frequency table because that's part of your assignment today. So here I've got, again, age of visitors, and I'm going to make a frequency table. So let's see, I'm going to use my pen here. Let's go green this time. So we're going to use the Mr. Hobbs method and just go through every time. And when we see a number, we're going to put a tally in its correct box and then mark it off. So let's see, 40. Okay, so I put a mark in the 31 to 40 category. Let's cross that out. 36. Okay, that goes in the same category. Let's cross it out. 21 goes in this category. It's 21 to 30. 9 would go in this category, so we're just going to put a tally mark. So I'm just counting how many times these show up. Okay, so we got 43, we've got 2, we've got 13, that goes here, 27 goes here, 25 goes here, 28 goes here, and we're just going to keep going. So I'm going to kind of speed through this a little bit. 38, 45, 50, 3, 15, 19, 37, 22. Oh, that goes here. Almost put it in the wrong spot. Make sure you don't rush too much. And then 25. Okay, so I've gone through, I've checked everything off. Now let's make sure they all add up correctly. So let's see, in this category, I have 3, 3, 6, 5, and 3. So a quick way to make sure that we've done it correctly is to count how many numbers we have and does our total in this frequency column come out to be the same. So let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 numbers. Let's see if this came out. Okay, so 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 6 is 12, plus 5 is 17, plus 3 is 20. So all of these add up to 20, which is the same as my category over here. So if these totals don't add up to be how many numbers we're dealing with, it did something wrong. So it's a great way to go back and look at what we did wrong. So that concludes our review. We've gone over measures of center, we've gone over histograms, we've gone over frequency tables, and we reviewed some Desmos. A lot of stuff in the first day, but hopefully not too bad. Wanted to start with review. Now for today, your assignments. You are going to finish Stats Book Part 1. Now, if you're following along, you're probably almost done. You just have to do a couple problems. Now, this is due tonight. So whenever we give you a homework assignment, make sure you finish it because it is due that day. So best of luck. Remember, if you need help, we will be online from 12 to 1, and don't hesitate to email. Best of luck. See you guys.